All right, good morning, everybody. I think you guys can hear me and see me. We're going to get started here in just a second. In fact, I need to quickly mention this over in Trade Ops too. We'll get started here in just a minute. Yeah, good morning, everybody. Thank you for confirming. Much appreciated. All right, perfect. Here we go. Okay, cool. Well, I hope you guys can all hear me, so I think we should be good to go. We are going to look at a few things here this morning on my notepad. I should also say welcome to everybody that might be new here today. This is our Set the Market morning call. I'm on the road again this week, but back in the office next week. Hence the weird background here. But what are we going to do here this morning? We're going to look at the equity markets. First and foremost, I want to start off actually by reminding us where the performance is year to date. And then we'll look at a couple other things. We'll look at the ARKK ETF, and we're going to look at DTE as well, so a couple of individual stocks as well. I think we should be able to get through it here pretty quickly today. So let's get to it. If you've never been here before, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Please, as always, give us a thumbs up like on the video. That allows us to be able to continue to do the show and allows the algorithms to pick up what we're doing here. So let's start off first things first. Reminder of performance. We do this a lot because I think it helps for perspective. So this is the year-to-date performance of different asset classes. You can see, for example, still uranium is still the leader this year, up 47%. Then you see a stock like CCJ, Cameco, which is actually in our top 3 stock picks year to date. The stock, and we made that stock pick like last November. That stock's up 46%. Platinum is doing well. German stocks, silver, gold, Bitcoin, Chinese stocks, emerging markets, and then only then do we get to the Nasdaq 100. Copper had a rough going. I mean, that's just been an absolute shit show between the tariff talks. We were very bullish on copper still, though. And then, of course, you get to the S&P and Max 7 stocks, which are, rock bottom. They're up about 6.4% on the year. Good performance, but again, 6.4% versus many other things that are doing much better. I think a lot of people still haven't even come close to think about the reality of what's going on, which is a marginal rebalancing of global portfolios that is marginally rebalancing away from Max 7, not out of Max 7, but rebalancing that portfolio, and that can take years, and that's probably going to keep those stocks at some lid. I don't know what that lid is. Clearly, it keeps going up, but it's already relatively underperforming those Max 7 stocks versus many other things. And that's really typically how things start. They start to relatively underperform before they absolutely also underperform. But that's, again, it's not our call that Max 7 are bad companies. It's our call that and it's been all year, that the global rebalancing of at the margin, rebalancing all the dollar assets, U.S. assets, meaning anything from treasuries to Max 7 stocks, is going to keep a lid on a lot of those things. So that continues, and I think that's important for people to understand. Again, it's our main theme. It's been our main theme for, almost a year, probably not quite a year, but almost. Let's look at the equity market, S&P 500 first. We'll look at the SPY. I talked about the month of August yesterday in a video. We talked about it to some clients as well yesterday. And what I continue to see is these sort of reversal days. In fact, last week we had a reversal week. If you look at the S&P 500, I think we touched on it here yesterday as well. And I still think this is something we want to pay attention to. We had earnings from Palantir and other companies again last night, and the money chases the momentum. Um, Luckily, we've got very bullish trends in Palantir, so we remain, from a trend following perspective, our signals remain long Palantir. But we do want to, pay attention to those weekly reversals. So if you look at the S&P 500 on the chart here on your screen, you can see that the last time we had a weekly reversal like we had last week, the S&P then proceeded to drop about 20%. Again, that's not our call. I don't think the S&P can drop 20% here, but I do know a lot of hedge funds are very, very bullishly positioned. I received a lot more information on that last week. It got reiterated yesterday with a couple of calls I had. So, the marginal buyer has been the retail investor with passive investing, and that's kind of saved the broader market. But there's only so much that retail cohort can do before they run out of spending power, basically. So this is not a bearish call. It's just something to be aware of. Now that we've said this, though, let's look at a few individual things that are taking place that I think, for if one wants to look at stuff on the long side, that is quite compelling. So we look at something like ARKQ. Let me quickly type that in correctly. So we look at something like the Autonomous Technology and Robotics ETF by ARK, ARKQ. We actually have a trend-following buy signal on what's called our market rover software, which I'll show you in a minute, here on this particular stock. And so if you want to just draw some lines on it, you might come to the conclusion that this is a bullish flag pattern as well. And again, to me, what's way more important is that we use our smart technology for this. So I'm going to quickly show you what that looks like. Now, I will tell you that this doesn't have very good options liquidity, this ARK ETF. But if you look at the constituents of this, you might find a stock or two within there that might be worthy to look at alongside. But here is the signal that we have on our trend following software. This is the ARKQ ETF. You can see we received a buy signal back in April, and we just received another one. So ARKQ, the initial profit targets here, the first or the next two profit targets for ARKQ are 101, just around 101, followed by around 103. So those are the next upside targets in ARKQ. Then there's another stock. I'll quickly show it to you. It's DTE Energy Company. It's kind of a utility stock in Michigan, and this one too, from a trend following perspective, continues to look good. I'll show you guys the absolute chart, so you can look at DTE as well on the absolute chart. I'm going to make this a little bit more visible for you. That's this here, and you can see that DTE actually just yesterday on Monday had what we call a breakout on a daily closing basis yesterday. So we finally broke above that $140 level, and the stock was up, 1.65%. Not a big deal, but nevertheless, it finally managed to score a breakout. So again, this is more of a utility kind of stock. It's a little bit boring for some of you that are just purely trading, but it is a stock that's been basing now for a couple of 2-3 months now, and is now starting to make a move. So I thought I would point that out, right? So that's another thing. And then really the big question that I continue to ask myself is, what's going on with the dollar? I've been on the dollar. It's been a lot of nothingness, to be honest with you. We've had obviously a big sell-off earlier this year, but since April, the dollar hasn't really done much. It's gotten marginally weaker, but then it's bounced back. So I don't really have a high probability call on the dollar, to be honest with you right now. Hence also not really on yields. We talked about yields yesterday. I'm just not quite sure, the economy is weak enough yet. I just, I'd love to go long 2-year futures, basically making a bet that 2-year bonds go up, yield down. I just need to see the equity market show some weakness first. And that's important because if the equity market shows weakness, it would show me that the equity market is respecting macro signals like the yield. But in absence of that, I just don't see a lot of reason to respect this just yet. Last but not least, let's talk about Palantir. The stock this morning is trading higher. It's I think currently pre-market here, it's up about 7%, trading the low 170s. So that's PLTR. The low 170s is where the stock is right now. That's about right there. You can see that little blue line. Again, way more importantly to me is that we want to continue to respect Palantir from a trend following perspective long term. I would not be buying the stock up here, no way. But I wanted to show you that we remain bullish from a trend following perspective. This particular stock, and you can see it became a bullish trend all the way back in May of 2023, and the stock now again this morning in the low 170s, so up about 1,700% since we received the trend following buy signal. So that's a big deal, and actually for those people that enjoy the idea of following trends like we have here in Palantir, we're doing a session today in about an hour and 3/4. That's at 11 o'clock Eastern time on how to find these kind of names that we can trend follow. There's typically a growth story attached to it. So if you want to learn how to find those kind of trades, we're going to be using our market rover for that. Right, then make sure you join us in that session. You can reach out to, in fact, I can quickly type it in here, I think. If you guys have any questions in the meantime, let me know, but that's something important. So Palantir, I actually think Palantir is getting overbought here. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a similar market reaction in Palantir this morning as we had in Microsoft last week. I don't have a trade on it necessarily, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's going to be the market reaction here this morning as we see how market participants want to react to the Palantir earnings. Again, pre-market the stock's up about 7%, and we'll have to see how the market reacts to it once the cash session actually opens. Here is this session here. This is the session you guys want to join today if you want to join and learn more about trend following, where we can, there's a huge difference. I always like to point this out. Most people don't differentiate between trend following and momentum trading. It's a very, very different thing. Momentum trading, momentum comes and goes. But trends like the one in Palantir here, right? And I'm bringing up Palantir, not the cherry pick, but because they reported earnings last night and the stock's up this morning, right? This stock's up 1,700%, right? So a trend following approach is always going to beat the living daylights out of something very hectic from a trading perspective. That's not to say we shouldn't trade. I trade every day, right? But riding winners, particularly growthy things like this or things that have a thematic behind it, is to me it's existentially important from a wealth building perspective, right? Because we can basically allocate more money to growth, to trend following stories than we can just to a trading idea, right? That lasts for a few days or a couple of weeks. So if you guys want to learn more about that, that's today in about an hour and 40 minutes from now. If you are an Inner Circle member, we're going to see you in about 3 minutes over in the Inner Circle session, where I've got a couple things I'd like to point out to you, and among other things, how we might want to treat Palantir here from a trading perspective. So I'll see you guys over there. And also, we'll be back here tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock Eastern time with our Set the Market morning call. So please join us back here tomorrow. Give us a thumbs up, like, and if you have any questions in the meantime, you can reach out to our team. It's support@thesteadytrader.com. So thanks so much for being here. Subscribe, thumbs up, like, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Thanks.